So good morning to everybody. It's time now for us to begin on this new session for the International Day of Women in Statistics and Data Science. I'd like to give you a very short presentation of who we are. So in order to do that, I'd like to share my screen in a while. Yes. So what I want to share you is we are within this very wide and interesting framework, which is given by multi-layered urban sustainability action. And we are a think tank whose aim is to promote gender equality at the University of Milano Bicocca district, so not only in the academia, but also in the social framework in which we live. So within this innovation ecosystem founded by the Ministry of University and Research under the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, we are part of a think tank, which is composed by Silvia Penati, Professor of Physics, Laura Pagani, Professor of Economics, Gabriella Seveso, Professor of Education, Erika Grammatica, Researcher in Statistics, Mariangela Zenga, and me, Professor of Statistics. So the team has an aim to promote equal opportunity in educational research through concrete action that shape the future both inside and outside the academic world. This is why we wanted to be presenting our session within this context, which is so important for us. And the activities of the think tank, just to give you an idea, they are related to analyzing gender stereotypes deeply rooted in childhood and pre-adolescence, especially with reference to scientific disciplines like science, technology, engineering, and math. And the goal is to contribute to deconstructing preconception through specific activities aimed both at students and teachers. We also analyze the horizontal segregation of male and female students based on students' university paths. We carry out intervention aimed at promoting equitable and inclusive education. Another area of focus is the statistical analysis of gender distribution in academic careers. So with the goal of identifying potential issues and proposing actions again. We organize events in collaboration with other universities within the MUSA and also with partners such as the Municipality of Milan and Assolombarda, which is the largest territorial association of the entire entrepreneurial system in the country, in Italy, to actively engage the local community and raise awareness about gender stereotyping. This session will present now a practical methodology for identifying and validating stylized facts, showcase their impact through real-world example, and discuss their potential to address global challenges. We have 3 speakers. The first should be Alina Jędrzejczak from the University of Łódź. I will do not share now my screen. So I want to interrupt my sharing. Yes. So, but I see that Professor Alina is not here, so let us change our schedule. Our second speaker is Laura Benedan from University of Milano Bicocca, and she will speak on gender inequality initiatives in Italian company, a study of the life science sector. So we will change slightly our schedule. Laura, is it good for you to begin?
Hi, thank you, Francesca. Yes, I can begin. Let me share my screen.
You have 17 minutes to speak and 1 minute for question and answer.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Just a minute, because I can see. Okay. Do you see full screen?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, thank you. I'm Laura Benedanna of the University of Milano Bicocca, and today I'll talk about a study who was conducted together with Professor Paolo Mariani, Laura Pagani, and Maria Gela Zenga of the University of Milano Bicocca, and Cinzia Colopinto of the University Ca' Foscari of Venice. Today, I talk about gender initiatives in Italian companies in the life sciences sector. I'll begin with a brief overview of the gender on the gender gap in management and executive positions, and followed by a presentation of the study's methodology and results. Finally, I conclude with a discussion of the findings and recommendation. So diversity and inclusion go beyond social justice. They offer significant business benefits. When decision-making teams reflect customer diversity, companies gain a deeper understanding of customer needs. Despite these benefits, there remains a considerable underrepresentation of women in executive roles, highlighting the need to identify factors contributing to this disparity. By understanding these factors, we can develop effective strategies to promote diversity and inclusion in corporate governance. This study explores the current gender gap in top management within Italy's life sciences company, highlighting both the challenges and opportunity in this vital sector. So in Italy, women make up a significant proportion of the life sciences workforce, especially in lower and mid-level roles. However, similar to trends in other countries, the number of women in senior leadership remains low. Recent reports show that women hold fewer than 20% of executive roles, despite forming nearly 50% of the sector workforce. The European Institute for Gender Equality notes that across Europe, only 25% of board seats in healthcare and life sciences are held by women, a statistic that mirrors the situation in Italy. Despite progress, women encounter multifaceted obstacles, impeding their ascent to executive positions. These include the pervasive glass ceiling phenomenon, unequal compensation, limited network opportunities, and inadequate support structures. Gender biases and stereotypes are entrenched in corporate cultures, further compound these challenges. Closing this gap will require active efforts from organizations, policymakers, and society at large to dismantle stereotypes. Therefore, our research examines how supportive policies can foster environments where women thrive in leadership roles. Given the gender imbalance in executive roles, this study seeks to understand how companies in Italy's life science sector are addressing this challenge through gender inclusion policies. Our objective was to gather data on the current landscape, highlighting progress made so far and identifying areas that need further improvement. And I'll present now the study and the methodology. An ad hoc questionnaire was developed to assess the presence of women in corporate management teams and boards, as well as to evaluate the gender equality policies of the companies. The companies that participated in the survey were cross-checked against the AIDA database. Information about the geographical location, annual turnover, and number of employees was compared with the data obtained from the questionnaire. In order to assess the degree of commitment to sustainability and gender equality, the websites of the companies were analyzed. We developed a questionnaire, an ad hoc questionnaire, that includes approximately 30 questions divided into 3 sections, each designed to gather details, insights into various aspects of the company. Section 1 focuses on the composition of each company first line of management, asking the total number of people in managerial positions, the number of women in this position, as well as the specific role and seniority. In addition, companies were asked to provide a short-term forecast regarding the inclusion of female figures. Section 2 examines the company's policies and practices adopted to promote a greater involvement of women in corporate life. Strategies for further improvements in diversity, sustainability, and employee engagement were also discussed, along with the values that guide the company's action and decision on these issues. It requests information on policies specifically targeting female inclusion, strategies for promoting gender diversity, and any awards received for inclusion and sustainability. Section 3 gathers general information about the organizational structure of the participating companies. The questionnaire was sent to the companies thanks to the assistance of HPS About Pharma and the Human Resources Directors Association, and the survey was distributed directly to human resources professionals in about 1,090 life sciences companies across Italy via personalized invitation emails. The questionnaire was available for completion from May to October 2023, thereby allowing respondents a substantial period of time to complete at their convenience. The final data set comprised 55 companies. And so we can see now the companies that participated in the survey, and they represent a diverse range of business sizes and structures. This includes both small businesses with modest turnover and limited staff, as well as larger corporations. We use this question as a validation proxy. So we were interested in assessing if there were gender quotas to be respected or policies to ensure gender balance within the management team, within the whole company, or if there were no gender quotas, but they were among the future objectives, and if there were not gender quotas and they were not among the future objectives. It is worth noting that only 20% of companies have gender quotas to meet, of which about 11% pertain to the company staff and 9% to the management team. We created 3 statistical indicators. The first one was related to the questionnaire, and it was constructed using the answers to several questions. We were interested in 4 different themes. The first one was about the corporate actions, and the respondents were asked to indicate their level of agreement with the statements about the company organizes training sessions and workshops with guest speakers to raise awareness of gender equality. If the company collects feedback or suggestions from employees, or if a management conducts training session to raise awareness on gender equality, and if the company has a transparent remuneration policy that takes gender equality into account. The second theme was about goals and rewards, and assess the present or absence of sustainability as an explicit strategic goal of the company, if equal opportunities and inclusion were a clear strategic goal, and whether the company has received a sustainability-related award in the last 5 years. Then the policies were assessed, and for example, if the company provided crashes or agreements with private childcare providers, if there were flexible working hours, part-time work, remote working options, training programs for women, and other kind of policies. Then we constructed 2 different indicators using 2 different data sources. We cross-checked the data from the questionnaire with the AIDA database, and some information were extracted, like sales revenues and the number of employees. And we also made a web content search to provide an initial assessment of the company's transparency in relation to the research aims. We were interested to see if the company had a website, if there were information about diversity and inclusion in the mission and vision, if there were information about ESG, and if there were a web page or a section dedicated to gender equality or more generally to women. Then the 3 indicators were summarized for the realization of the Women in Life Sciences indicator as follows. They were summed up, and we can see that the questionnaire had a greater weight compared to the other 2 indicators. After that, we assessed the relationship between these indicators and the validation proxy if minimum gender quota policies exist. And the results demonstrate that companies where gender quotas at the company or management level must be respected exhibit the highest overall values. Conversely, companies without such policies or those planning to implement them in the future demonstrate lower scores. And so to conclude, the MDSD study was to explore the extent of gender equality and inclusion in the Italian life sciences sector. We developed an ad hoc questionnaire, which was distributed to companies, and they subsequently completed it. Further data on participating companies were obtained from the AIDA database from online searches of their websites. 3 statistical indicators were constructed and summarized in a single total index that can be used for other companies for self-assessment and of where they stand about gender inclusion and diversity. This contribution aims to promote the joint use of different information sources by enhancing the role of data sciences, even in contexts where the reference model is defined to have a model and immediate use by companies. These studies have some limitation. One of the main limitations of the study is the relatively small number of participating companies. The diversity of the companies covering different areas of the life sciences sector introduces a wide range of factors that could confound the result of the study, making it difficult to draw general conclusions. There may also be a selection bias, as the companies that responded to the questionnaire may be those with a greater interest in promoting gender equality. And I can end my talk. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts or answering any question you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura, for your very interesting presentation. I propose to switch to Professor Alina Jędrzejczak, who is now available. She will present her work on the gender gap in the Visegrad Group countries based on the Luxembourg income study. We will switch to discussion of the paper at the end of the session because of time constraint of our speakers. Thank you. So Alina, the floor is yours. Could you, Laura, do your sharing of the video? Undo that sharing, please.
Yes.
No. Thank you. It seems that we have some problem with the audio of Professor Alina Jędrzejczak. We hope to solve it in a moment.
So Alina, if you can just unmute yourself on the screen, not on the Zoom.
Alina, perhaps it is something which is local to your PC because you are unmuted in the Zoom session, while what I see in your screen on your leftmost and bottom corner is that there is some problem with the audio. You see on that leftmost bottom corner. Okay. So perhaps we can give you one more minute to try to solve it. Ah, perhaps now it is changing. Look at your, very good. Now?
No. And now, no.
Try to speak, yes, yes. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Wow. Okay, sorry for these
We did
problems.
it. Okay.
Is it visible?
Yes.
Oh my God. Sorry. We have only a few minutes. Okay, so is it okay?
It is.
Can I speak?
Sure, the floor is yours.
Yes, so the presentation is devoted to the measurement methods of gender gap. I will just briefly show you what I did in this context because we have almost no time, sorry. So the calculations are based on Luxembourg income study data. And first I will take the background of the problem. So to uncover the factors contributing to gender discrepancy, it's useful to move beyond the typical focus on measuring it by means of popular summary measures, median and modes, towards a view on how the entire distribution of women's earnings relative to men's compares. In the paper of Grzelin and Jędrzejczak from 2020, the authors first applied the relative distribution approach to gender gap for Poland and Italy. It was very fruitful. They highlighted remarkable differences between the countries, especially related to the discrepancy across regions. In the recent paper of Grzelin, Jędrzejczak and Szczyńska from 2023, the authors proposed a new parametric approach to gender gap analysis based on different theoretical distributions. And the focus of the present paper is on income distributions across 4 Central European countries, which form V4 group. They are Poland, Slovakia, Czechia, and Hungary. The idea was to compare the neighboring countries with different paths of economic transformation from a centrally planned to a market-based economy. So the final question is about the gender gap, of course, in these V4 countries. The basis was Luxembourg income study. Our main variable of interest was household disposable income, which is consisted of the 4 basic components: income from hired employment, cash benefits from self-employment, pensions and the transfer, and property incomes reduced by property tax. Let's take the first look at gender gaps in the 4 countries, which are given in this table. We have the popular Gini index and gender gaps based on summary measures, median and modes. It can easily be noticed that the highest gender gaps are in Czech Republic. And it is also striking that for all the countries, these gaps are huge. And it's also typical that males' distribution are more concentrated than the female ones. Of course, this approach based on only summary measures seems far too satisfactory, and we try to deepen our analysis using some curves which can show this gap for each population quintile. And the first trial was to show all these income distributions for gender groups for each country by means of density curves of theoretical distributions. As you can observe, for each country, the distribution of males overwhelms the distribution of females. However, it is hard to decide about the level of gender gap, because these density curves involve at the same time three things: location, shape, and also scale of the distribution. So it's hard to say. The other trial is to use inequality curves, which are by definition scale free. So as they are scale independent, it should be better to recognize the difference between distributions. The most popular of these curves is the Lorentz curve, which you know very well, I think, which the Lorentz curve plots the cumulative share of income, say L of P, versus the cumulative share of the population, and is given by the following formula, when E of Y denotes the mean value of the random variable Y. And the popular Gini index is defined as twice the area between the equality line and the Lorentz curve, how it is visible in the formula below. Another concept of inequality curve was proposed by Zenga, and the motivation for this proposition was the observation of increasing disparities between less and more fortunate part of the population. And finally, Zenga in 2007 introduced a new inequality curve obtained by contrasting the average income of the poor P% of bottom earners, that is the me minus measure, with the amount that is held on average by the richest of earners. So the earners, the remaining 1 minus P% of the population, and it is given by the upper mean me plus of P, and the Zenga index is defined as a relative difference between these values. In the next slide, we can compare these two approaches to inequality measurement, and this comparison shows that the Zenga index is more sensitive to inequality at any point of income distribution, because it gives the same weight to each comparison along the entire distribution, and also the groups to which the lower and upper mean refer to are exhaustive and disjoint. The curve has neither forced values at the endpoints, nor is constrained to being decreasing and concave on the unit interval. So the result of the calculations for Poland are given in the next slide, when we can observe the difference between men and women distributions, which is especially visible on the right-hand panel of this graph. What confirms that the Zenga, the higher sensibility of the Zenga approach. So the gap, which is visible on the slide, is not the full gender gap, as it takes into consideration only differences in inequality levels, not all possible income differences. To go deeper, one should apply the concept of relative distribution, which is a very good idea to measure the gender gap for two distributions for each distribution quantile, and use only one curve to represent both this distribution. Let y0 be a random variable representing the reference distribution with the cumulative distribution function f0 of y. Let y be the comparison distribution with the CDF f of y. The relative distribution is defined as the distribution of the random variable r, which is f0 of y. So when the distributions y and y0 are the same, identical, the random variable r is uniformly distributed. The deviation from this uniform pattern can be interpreted as the gap between income distributions. So we applied this approach to income distributions of males and females for these 4 countries. Using the parametric approach, that is, we based our calculations on the predefined income distribution models. The 2 models were considered at the beginning: log normal, which is very simple and very popular income distribution model, and the DAGU model, which was proposed specifically for the income distribution analysis, and is a 3-parameter distribution. And the RELDIST method, the parametric approach, gives the following formula for the DAGU model, which has been chosen because of better goodness of fit than the log normal one. So finally, I can show you the log normal estimates and DAGU estimates of income distribution parameters, and then the gender gaps based on the DAGUM, which turned out to be better income distribution model. As you can see here, we have the gaps for European countries. The top left panel is Hungary, then we have Poland, then we have Slovakia, and then we have Hungary, Poland, Slovakia, and it is not written, okay, but they are 4 of them, and we can observe that for a given country, for example, for Poland, in this concept, we can observe for a predefined point that in Poland, 50% of women earn less than the 3rd decile man, for example. So the gender gap is really high, but the highest was observed for Czech Republic, and it is the result, the main empirical result. The highest gender gap was observed in the Czech Republic at the 3rd decile of male distribution, that is for P 0.3, it is 0.54. That means that approximately 54 of women earn less than the 3rd decile male's income. So it is higher than for Poland. The result is even more striking for median, that is for P 0.5, where the share of women earnings less was 76. And the second highest result, which is obviously unfavorable for women, was observed for Poland, where exactly 50% earned less than the 3rd decile man. The result is very close to Slovakia, where it was 49. Hungary can be considered the most gender equal country. We can notice that only 41% of women earned less than the 3rd decile man. So now I go to conclusions, which are the following. The relative distribution method applied in the study turned out to be relevant to analyze the gender gap for the entire income range. And the parametric approach based on the DAGU model, which have been proposed by the authors, made it possible to better describe the existing gender gaps in V4 countries, especially at the tails, as it is helpful in the context of smoothing irregularities coming from random data. The parametric approach can also be helpful, yes, I did it, within group inequalities measured by the Zenga curves were found to be diversified across the countries. However, they seem to have a rather small impact on the discrepancy between gender groups. Okay, thank you for your attention. The time is out, I think.
Thank you so much, Alina, for your presentation. I think that it is good for us to continue on the next speaker because of time constraint. I would like to greet you because I know that now you have to go to teaching, Alina. So thank you for your participation within teaching time. So our next speaker is Erika Grammatica, and she will speak about, she will present a paper on when do gender differences in education arise, an analysis of IDWSDS test scores to explore the gender gap in mathematics and Italian performances. So Erika, the floor is yours.
Hi, and thank you, Francesca, for this introduction. Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, a moment, please. Okay. Hello, I am happy to be able to present my work on the International Day of Women in Statistics and Data Science. This is a joint of work to Professor Laura Pagani and me at the University of Milano Bicocca. The work is a project within the Musa Innovation Ecosystem, and this research diverges into the evolution of gender difference in education in Italy. I will begin with a brief introduction to the gender gap in education in Italy. Next, I will present the dataset and the variables used in the analysis, then explain how the gender gap index was constructed. I will then move on to the application and discuss the main results obtained. And finally, I will conclude with a summary and proposals for future research. In Italy, despite the significant progress made over the years in promoting gender equality in education, some disparities still remain, particularly regarding educational paths and future opportunities. In this study, we analyzed the temporal evolution of IDWSDS test score in Italian and math among primary and secondary school students to identify when gender difference in education emerge. The IDWSDS tests are standardized assessment that measure the skills of Italian students in various subjects, including Italian and math. The tests are administered in primary school, in middle school and high schools to evaluate students' proficiency and monitor the effectiveness of the education system. The questions are different based on the level of education to which they are administered, and the tests are administered on a specific day, thus ensuring a homogeneous comparison between different schools and regions. The IDWSDS Italian tests include the question on text comprehension, grammar and linguistics, written production, while the IDWSDS math tests include the question on problem solving, calculation operations, geometry and measurements, and algebra and data. The data we have available includes the cohort of students from 2010 to 2033 for grades 2 and 5 AE primary school, grade 8 AE middle school, and grade 10 AE high school. Each row of our dataset corresponds to the individual student who in that specific year and grade took the IDWSDS test in math and or in Italian. The variables taken into consideration in the analysis concern information about the student, such as the student's gender and origin, variables regarding the school, such as the type of school and the region in which the school is located. Socio-demographic variables such as the educational qualification and professional titles of the parents. And finally, the variable that identifies the score obtained on the Invalsi test is the weighted likelihood estimate score on a national scale, which is a statistical indicator used to measure student skills in a weighted way, taking into account the difficulty of the questions the students answered. To analyze the gender gap in scores obtained in Italian and Math, we first calculated the mean AALE score for each cohort of students and for each level of education, separately for boys and girls. When we then constructed the gender gap index as the ratio between the difference in the mean score of boys and girls divided by the mean score of girls, all multiplied by 100. When the index is equal to 0, it means that there is no difference between the mean scores of boys and girls. When the gender gap index is positive, it means that the average score of boys is higher than that of girls. And finally, when the result is negative, it means that the average score of girls is higher than that of boys. In this slide, I show the evolution of over time of gender differences in Math and Italian test for all levels of education from 2010 to 2023. Starting from the result of primary school, it is possible to notice that there is a gender difference. In particular, males perform better in Math, green line above 0. While females obtain higher scores in the Italian test, blue line below 0. Moving on the middle school, we note that the gender gap continues to be present and is increasing. Finally, looking at the graph relating to high school, it is possible to note a marked gender difference in the grades obtained in the two subjects. Considering the same cohort of students, the accentuation of the gender difference in learning Italian and Math is even more evident. It should be kept in mind that the data on high schools can be influenced by the type of school chosen, since the same Italian and Math test is administered in different types of school. A.E. scientific high school with male presence, classical and humanistic high school with female presence. The market disciplinary segregation revealed by this analysis suggests a potential influence on the university career choices of boys and girls. It is essential to act in schools, starting from early childhood. Therefore, we focused on grade 2 and examined the development of gender difference, considering students' socio-demographic characteristics. By dividing Italy into 3 geographical areas based on where the school is located, it is possible to notice that boys and girls in southern Italy appear to have a similar score in the Math test. The gender gap index is around 0. green line in the graph of the right. While the northern and central Italy, boys obtain better results than girls in maths, gender gap index greater than 0, blue and orange line. The result obtained in 3 geographical areas for the Italian test are similar. Considering the origin of the student, that is, if native, if first generation foreigner, or if second generation foreigner, it can be noted that first generation foreigner male student obtain a score in mathematics that are not significantly higher than those of first generation female students. The gender gap index close to 0, but no, the first generation of foreigners are students born like their parents abroad. Finally, we note that the mother's education is not related to the score obtained in the Italian test, but it is strongly linked to gender differences in mathematics performance, in particular boys who mother has a degree or higher obtain higher scores than girls in math, green line in the graph on the right. I have reported the graph on the mother's educational qualification, but the same result is obtained considering the father's educational qualification. In conclusion, from this research, we found that regardless of the level of study, gender difference in math and Italian performance are present. The market disciplinary segregation highlighted by this analysis could influence the university choices of boys and girls. It is essential to intervene from early childhood in schools to eliminate gender stereotypes, encourage activities that improve the performance of male and female students, and increase awareness of STEM subjects. Student socio-demographic characteristics are strongly related to their performance in math. Gender difference are more pronounced among students from advantaged socioeconomic backgrounds, such as native Italians, those with highly educated parents, or those who attend schools located in the north of the country. The next step of this research involved the use of more advanced statistical techniques to study the impact of students' socio-demographic characteristics on gender difference in learning math in Italy, and to try to further investigate the characteristic of male and female students who populate the upper tails of the distribution of math scores. Thanks everyone for your attention.
Thank you so much, Erika, for your presentation. We have perhaps 2 minutes for two very short questions. I have a question for Erika. So I was really surprised in looking the worst situation in northern Italy with respect to the gender gap. Can you comment very briefly more on this result, which is surprising?
Yes, it's a very surprising, but the situation of the North Italy is more
Heterogeneous, perhaps.
Yes, heterogeneous, and there are more a person of degree, and is a situation more development.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Erika, for your presentation and the discussion. I have a little question for Laura. So you mentioned that you observed in your data that organizational size measured by the number of employees and the turnover was a determining factor influencing companies' inclination toward gender equality. Can you give a brief comment on that result that you got, that you observed, which is very interesting also?
Thank you, Francesca, for your question. Yes, it seems that larger companies are more oriented to ensure gender equality, and they more often have gender quotas, or they are more careful to develop policies to ensure that women are well represented and maybe have a more balanced work-life balance. And while we had very small businesses too, and they maybe were less inclined to have this kind of policies. But this result should be explored deeper in the future. You are mute.
Thank you, Laura, for your answer. I would like to thank the organizer of the International Day for Women in Statistics and Data Science for offering us this important opportunity to share our thoughts and our results. And I leave the floor for the next session. Thank you to my speakers. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Erika. Thank you, Alina.
Thank you. Bye.